Welcome back to Marketing Connected. I'm your host, Xin Ying, and you're tuned into In Conversation, a series where we, as the title suggests, are in conversation with the industry's brilliant minds and experts. In this episode, we have Cho Pei Lin, Managing Director at APRW, an integrated communications agency headquartered in Singapore. She's been at it for 23 years and counting. She graduated with a law degree from NUS and was a pioneer in introducing litigation and disputes PR to Singapore. And that's exactly what we are looking to tackle as a topic today on In Conversation. Without further ado, thanks for joining us for this episode, Galen.
It's my pleasure.
Amazing. So I think just as I briefly mentioned, the reason why we wanted to have a conversation with you is because it's not every day that you see a lawyer become a PR and comms professional. Could you maybe tell us a bit about your background in legal and how APRW came around?
When I was in practice, I was doing litigation work. And that was actually when I wrote my first press release as a lawyer. A client came in and it was a case of wrong pricing online, which resulted in more than $6 million worth of goods being ordered online.
Oh.
They would have made that kind of millions in losses if they fulfilled the order. That was way in the early 2000s. And when the client came, they said, we need legal advice, but more importantly, we need to respond to the media and who are at our doors immediately. So can you give us a media release straight away? And I guess that was when I realized that there was this possible space where whilst litigants or organizations or people are fighting a legal case, at the same time, there is a need for them to also look at responding to the public, to the media, as well as what we call reputation management. So when a friend said, shall we do something together? And we were young and foolish. And we said, okay, let's try, right? And that's how we started a PR agency, but we joined APRW a year later. So APRW was actually founded in 1996. And this year we celebrate 30 years since founding. So I am very proud of how far the agency has come.
Happy anniversary to APRW.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
timing
you.
as well.
Yes.
So we can mark the 30th anniversary.
And so when you invited me, I said, yeah, why not?
It is safe to say that you are sort of, or can be said to be, a pioneer of disputes, communications, and litigation PR in Singapore. How did you even get into the space in the first place? This is also something that most people wouldn't have known existed.
I wrote my first media release as a lawyer. Therefore, there's definitely a demand in that sense. But I think what really sealed the deal was reading a book that I found accidentally when I was researching about PR and deciding whether I wanted to join the field. I found a book that was titled Litigation PR. And it was written by a guy who was trained in law and did practice law and then went on to become a PR expert. He wrote a book called Litigation PR. And I think that sort of put the idea that, hey, there are people out there in the world doing this, and an entire agency or company in America is just focusing on that kind of work. So surely there should be a market here. But to be very honest, I would say the first 10 years of my life in PR, I hardly did any litigation or disputes comms.
I was just about to ask, in your early days, what was some
Nothing.
example?
I keep talking about it. I keep telling people I do litigation, I do disputes comms.
Yeah.
Please come and engage me. No one knew what the hell I was talking about, and no one actually came and gave me business,
They
right?
didn't think it was
No.
something they needed.
Yeah, correct. It was just such a foreign idea, but I continued. So what I did was firstly, I never give up. I just never mind, just keep on at it, right? Keep on at
asking
it.
people, yeah.
Keep telling people about it. I went and give talks to lawyers, to law firms, to the Law Society. I wrote articles for the Law Society's magazine. And I just kept educating people and talking about it until one day, somebody called and said, hey, I got a case. And I'm like, oh, really?
Come true.
Yeah, but you see, the good thing I realized also, two things. Firstly, when I started, I was in my 20s. So there is also this thing about if I see a young kid, in inverted comma, would I want to trust this person? Can I trust this person with my case? And does she know what she's talking about? So there are some things that I think comes with age as well as
Just experience working.
Yes. Experience the second thing, because by then I have been in the PR field for a long enough time, and I've gotten to know many, many journalists and media and editors in the space. And I've also embraced things beyond PR, which is why today we are integrated comms, right? Like, how do we manage the conversation online with social media platforms, etc. So I think, I mean, on hindsight, I am grateful that I didn't get my first case immediately, because honestly, I would have been experimenting with my client very much as well. But I think by the time the clients came in, I've already been in the industry for about 10 years, and I knew
prepared.
I knew what I was talking about, right? And I've experienced doing work in other areas like public affairs campaigns and corporate comms, etc. And I think that gave the layers that's needed for me to provide good advice.
So would you also say that like the law degree comes in super handy for all of them?
To all the young people out there, if you're thinking what you should study in the university, please, yes, the law degree, rock and roll.
Oh.
I would say that it is, I never regret studying law. No way. The training that I got in law school, it's so good. It helps you think in a different way. It gives you knowledge that makes you not so wary about the law. The law tends to be some things that people are very scared of, like, oh, did I break the law? Is it protecting me? Should I be doing this? But I think legal knowledge is so precious because it gives you that confidence to approach a lot of things. And I would say you don't have to be a lawyer just because you studied law. And so I really encourage young people, go ahead, man, get yourself a law degree. It's more like go and get the training. It's such good training, the way they make you think. And we do advocacy classes in law school. And that's what we do now in integrated comms. We advocate in a different way.
But you don't really look back and go like, I wish I studied comms instead.
No, no way. If I have to do it all over again, I would have gone to law school. Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
And then that kind of feeds in well into our next question because you want to know.
Yes.
Litigation PR often sits in the intersection of law, media, and public opinion. What would you say is the biggest mistake that organizations make when they are facing disputes?
Maybe it's probably the sequence of things that they look at. So, for example, they will often say, find a lawyer to give us legal advice first. And then after they are in the midst of executing the advice, whether it is to sue someone or to defend the case or whatsoever, then the matter gets thrown into the public space.
It's like escalated a bit.
Yes. So when it reaches the public space, then they say, can we try and control the narrative? Let's find a PR person or a comms person. So I guess that's probably the often made issue. Like when clients come to me or by the time they arrive at the door, their news is already splashed everywhere.
So if litigation PR comes in first, does that kind of also guide how the legal team might take things?
We call it litigation PR, but it actually doesn't have to be called that because not everything ends up in litigation, right? So I guess it's really about comms and crisis comms. Like I think crisis may be a bigger, broader
an
word.
umbrella.
Yeah, like an umbrella because not everything actually ends up in litigation or eventually at like litigation stage. What is most important, I feel, is that try to look at your crisis and say, okay, I need the firefighters to immediately solve the problem. I need the legal team to give me legal advice. I need the comms team to tell me what I should do about comms. Everything at the beginning or as early as you can, try to see if you have provided for these.
So it's like a holistic approach
Yes.
rather than one informing the other.
Correct.
In sequential method.
It often tend to be sequential because that's how people deal with crisis. Oh, there's a fire. I put out the fire first.
Yeah.
Then after the fire put out, I take a break because I'm so tired, right? Then I realized that, oh, got people sue me. Then I got to find a lawyer. How? So it tends to be like that. Yeah.
Human nature.
I think it's very much human nature.
So we also often think of legal and PR teams being at a different ends in a crisis. Is that true, or How early should communications be involved then? Right at the start?
Not so I would say it's not always true. So I know of many lawyers today who are very good at giving very holistic and comprehensive advice to clients. So I think across consulting, whether you are a lawyer, an auditor, accountant, business consultant, or a comms, if we are in the role of consulting, we no longer can look at the client and say, what is your comms problem and I solve your comms problem, or what is your legal problem that I solve your legal
It's
problem.
like boxing it up.
Yeah, I think what we are starting to see more of in the last 10 years is many of us are looking at it as, what is your business? Like we look at our client and say, what are you in the business of? If you're in the business of a charity and you're trying to raise funds and yet doing good things for the beneficiaries, when I give you advice, can I only say, under the law, you need to do like that? I need to actually look at your business and say, you should be looking at this, but at the same time, think about comms, at the same time, think about the proper audit so that you can carry on with your business. And that's why we are seeing a lot of cross work happening. Like, for example, we hear of certain big audit firms having legal departments and lawyers there to give legal advice. And similarly, within the law firms, we are seeing that many of them are telling clients, speak to a comms person first. And many lawyers I know are more than happy to work with someone like me to provide a good strategy for the client so that we want the client's business to continue and to thrive. You know, that's important.
Right. So going back to the cases itself, right, in a crisis situation, would you say that saying less during a crisis actually more of a win?
Everything is case by case. Everything is case by case. Okay, there's no standard way of doing things. There's no SOP that you should follow, right? I give you an example. Say a company is facing a cyber attack crisis. That's a crisis. It's a cyber attack. They're attacking your servers, right? But there's nothing in your server that can be considered personal data. Okay, so it's like maybe it's all your past articles, your financial data, like your P&L, your cash balances and all that. But nothing is personal, which is like my employees' names, email address, IC number. These are personal data, right? Which there is a law that says that if personal data is involved, then you need to report. And because you need to report and you need to inform, then you worry the news will leak. But if there's no personal data involved, do I really need to go and tell the whole world that I'm being attacked? Nobody will know that you're being attacked, right? Then do you really always need a statement to go out? No. So have a holding statement for like just in case. You tell people you're being attacked, you know what happened? More people can attack you.
So what have we seen in recent times that like people's or leaders' personal lives affect their corporate standing?
First, I think that people are naturally curious, or maybe there's a Singapore term for that. It's called kaypoh. More than curious, right?
Curious, yeah.
I don't think it's just curious. I actually think it's just being like
nosy?
nosy. Yeah, exactly. We love like stories like that. They are scandals and yeah, they are gossip. They are good because otherwise our life seems mundane. Throughout history, there's nothing new about people being kaypoh and curious. But with social media, it allows these scandals to be spread very quickly, right? That's the first part. The second part is that in the last 5 years, we started seeing companies and organizations move from I have a vision and a mission into more like I have a corporate purpose. Okay, so we are starting to see a shift of vision, mission into more companies saying this is my corporate purpose. And for the lack of a better word, that is the brand I've built up for myself. Now, that brand, many times, for example, means that I go out and I tell people that I stand for morality. I stand for the good.
It's like principles.
Yeah, and I declare that as if that is who my organization is or what my brand stands for. And when leaders do something totally opposite, then it actually has a direct impact on the brand. Okay? Sometimes I feel that organizations overreact. The overreaction of the organization results in an illusion that the leader's bad behavior has a
like an immediate effect.
but actually I don't think it will have any effect. Yeah. Like, I don't think people will not buy your shoes or your air tickets just because your CEO is, for example, sleeping around. So I also think it depends on the type of like relationship that we have with the leadership. If people see that leader as someone that they look up to. So for example, politicians, right? And I know that people say, hey, but how come politicians in America or in other places, they are not subject to that? Because that's the different expectations people have of their politicians. But in Singapore, people have a certain expectation of politicians.
But we're also saying this is not treading into territory of being inhumane or, violence. And
So again, it really depends, right? It really depends, right? So I really think that there are several things that we should take into consideration when we answer that question.
And there's also no real recommendation to these set leaders that like keep your personality separate from your business or anything like that.
But I think it gets harder, right? Because we are seeing like a lot of these C-suite level leaders wanting to have that online presence as well, because they see it as not only helping their brand and their business, but themselves. Right? They see, many of them look at it as, okay, I'm going to possibly retire early, but I can go around giving talks. I can write a book.
So that it lasts beyond just that role.
It is my personal profession and career and brand, right? That I'm trying to build up. And I think if that matters, then yeah, please try and make sure no scandals come out lah.
Right. Yeah. So where then do you draw the ethical line in communications, especially when a narrative can influence public perception?
I don't think, I mean, I'm not academic, right? So I don't know how to discuss this correctly.
Is it more like a gray area of blur line?
I won't use the word blur. I think I have my own lines. I don't know how to spell it out to you, but if you give me a situation, I can be very quick in deciding yes or no.
Right.
Okay, for example, maybe very basic, right? Do I break the law? No, I will never break the law. I will not break the law for work or for a client. Doesn't make sense.
No criminal activities.
No criminal activity. Yes, exactly, right? Will I lie under oath for a client? No way. Why would I do that? So if you give me the situation, I think I can very quickly tell you, according to my own values, whether I will do the work or I will not do the work.
Okay, this is just maybe my own fantasy situation that I came up with, right? Someone is involved in corruption and they actually did it. They're trying to cover it up and they need you to come in and step in with...
nobody will come to us and say,
in a very like...
No, let me explain to you why also,
Okay.
Let me explain to you why. I think I had more problems dealing with that as a lawyer than for comms. Because as a lawyer, as a first yearer, I was already assisting my senior partners doing cases for murders, people who are charged with murder, rape, all kinds of criminal work. So I did general litigation, that allowed me to be exposed to criminal work, divorce, and big corporate disputes as well, right? So I think I've crossed that a long time ago. As in, when a client come in and say there was corruption, I did it, as in I did receive the money, they will not tell you I didn't do it. They will say I did take the money. But when I took the money, it was a gift. And that guy's my friend. And I didn't think that I was going to pang chance to him to work with my company. And I didn't pang chance. But she's my friend. He gave me for Chinese New Year, he delivered this crate of very expensive pineapples. $25,000 pineapples. I thought, wow, nice, just eat lah. Then do I defend this guy? He did it, right? He never denied that he did it. But he feels that it is not corruption according to the law because he didn't do a favor back to that guy. Or maybe that guy didn't even get a contract. But I took his papers and I ate it lah. So can I represent a guy like that? I mean, to me, when I was in practice, I was taught by some of the best criminal lawyers. A mentor that I really look up to was the late Mr. Subhash Anandan. And I actually asked him this question. I said, how can you act for that guy? So many cases, that the late Mr. Subhash was involved in. And then Mr. Subhash would tell me, I'm not the judge, I have a role to play in this. The judge's role, he decides whether this guy is guilty or not. My role as a lawyer,
Representation.
I just help him communicate in court because in court, right, the prosecutor, he went to law school, the judge went to law school. That guy didn't go to law school. That guy needs to have someone to represent him. So I guess if you ask me, applying it to what I do today, it will be a case of, yes, I know the truth, but I would say it as how my clients instruct me, right? So for example, the truth is I did accept the papers, but I did not show him a favor. Now, it's very different from saying I accepted the papers, but can you tell the world I didn't accept the papers? Now, that's wrong already.
Right.
So most of the times when the clients come to us, they will tell us truth being that, but they don't think that there's anything wrong with it.
So beyond all of these really high-level cases, pineapples aside, high-level cases that you worked on before, you've also worked on major national campaigns like SG50 and Total Defense. So from your opinion, what does public trust mean in communication?
Government work is very different, but I would say the public may trust MOH, but it doesn't mean that they will eat less sugar. You know what I'm trying to say, you know?
I get
So I think it's not just about trust for certain things.
Yeah.
It's like for example, if you run a campaign for MOH and the campaign is please eat less sugar, then it's like, do you trust MOH? Yes. But will you eat less sugar? You know,
Case by case.
yeah, exactly, right? So
Depends on my mood.
so no direct link to the kind of public affairs campaigns that I've done. But generally speaking, yeah, that's the first step. You must build public trust. But just because you have trust does not mean people will buy your product.
Right. So
I trust you, but I may think that your product is not sexy enough or it's not good enough, and I will still buy the other phone.
but ultimately, the goal is still to build it. It's just depending on the recipients.
The success of an organization depends on many, many factors. Being able to build public trust is one thing, right? Do you trust this media marketing directive? Yes, I trust you. But if you don't give me the news, and I always read breaking news elsewhere, then I will not click on your stuff lah, because it's not news lah.
Let's hope that never happens.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, Marketing Interactive always could give us the news. Thank goodness. But yeah, what I feel is like it's not enough. Public trust alone is not enough. You need to have good product, good service, and you need to convince people to do something like eat less sugar or click on your news or buy your product. And that's still like there's still
The call to action.
yeah, there's other things involved. Public trust alone is not enough.
So then how do you communicate sensitive policy changes when it comes to things like this, like amendments to the Children and Young Persons Act without losing public confidence?
Actually, for many of the legislation changes in Singapore, civil service and the comms people in civil service have very good experience doing that, right? So although we were involved, I would not dare to take credit for what they have done over many, many years in preparation for changes to the legislation. So, for example, there's a lot of public consultation, especially from the sector, prior to them even arriving at deciding that the law needs to be updated. And then after they decide that the law needs to be updated, again, there's a lot more consultations with social workers, those who are in the enforcement space, like the police, the lawyers, before they look at like every clause or line within the legislation and how they will amend it. And by the time they reach a stage of we are going to make the amendments, I think the general public, none of us really understand the act anyway. So it is those in the industry that would have heard about the changes made to the act for years. It's like, you've been talking to me for 8 years, still haven't changed the act, faster change leh. So I think that is the kind of work that goes into most legislative changes. So if you look at the Workplace Fairness Act, right, there's a lot of tripartite discussions. NTUC and the unions need to be involved with MOM, together with SNEF, which is Singapore National Employees Federation. And then they do a lot of dialogues. Then the minister invite you to go and public dialogue. They talk about it for so long.
Yeah.
Until today, it's still not even in act yet. But yet, I was like, wow, faster leh. Say so long already.
Get it going.
Yeah, so I think that's how many of our legislative changes are approached. And I think it's a good approach. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's a great way to round off the conversation. We want to know also, in your view, what makes a communication strategy effective today beyond just getting headline?
I always ask my client, start by being very clear what your objectives are. What do you want? You want to sell product? Or you want to get lower rental? Or you want to keep your employees? What is the end goal? Then work backwards from there. If you don't even know what your end goal is, then yeah, you're just going to get headlines for the sake of having headlines.
Right, everyone. Don't get headlines just for the sake of it. Work
Yeah.
backwards. Also, I think going back to what you mentioned earlier at the start of the conversation, APRW is celebrating its 30th anniversary. How are you guys celebrating? Is that a party?
Yeah. We've debated it for a while, but there are a few things we're doing. Firstly, we are going to host our IPREX partners, which is our global network partners in Singapore. We are inviting like 30 over people from across 30 over countries for the first time be in Singapore for the IPREX conference. So we are looking forward to welcoming our foreign friends. And we are also planning a very big alumni party. So 30 years, we actually have a lot of people who have worked with APRW.
Like a university alumni gathering.
Yeah, yes.
But for APRW.
Really, you know, there were people who were there from day one, 30 years ago, right? So you can imagine we are going to have an open invite and I'm going to call all our alumni. Please come back and hang out with us in June. You'll hear it soon on our LinkedIn and all. And we really look forward to that.
Sounds so fun. Didn't expect to hear a PR agency doing an alumni gathering. That's really interesting. So on that note, thank you so much, Pei Lin, for joining us on Marketing Connected in Conversation series.
The pleasure was all mine.
But for the rest of the listeners out there, don't worry. Although this interview with Pei Lin of APRW is over, you can check out more In Conversation episodes and other Marketing Connected interviews on your favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to follow us on Marketing Interactive social media pages such as LinkedIn, Telegram, Facebook, Instagram. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Marketing Connected, brought to you by Marketing Interactive. Goodbye, everyone.